everybody, and welcome to episode 94. I get emotional every time I go up a number there. We're getting that much closer to 100 episodes of the OG Technically Trek. I am your humble host, Dave Primate. Over there on my right is the lovely, fantastic Captain Katie. How are you, my dear?
Ditzy as ever.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get verklempt over it, but stupid allergies. I don't
I'm alive.
tonight.
I survived. I've survived more days. And yeah, I managed to get 3 hours sleep this week.
Ugh.
But in all honesty, I had on Friday daytime, I had one of my very rare long sleeps. I actually slept for about 10 and a half, 11 hours. But then I didn't sleep again after that until this morning. And I had about two and a half hours.
Hashtag insomnia suck. Insomnia
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah. Or in my case, there are perks to insomnia, and that is you beautiful people.
Aw. Well, thank you, Katie. That's one thing that does make our show unique to also to other Star Trek podcasts. It's like not knocking them. I think I'm fans of a couple of them out there. We here at Technically Trek, we do welcome and encourage live participation on camera. The online chatter is going crazy right now. So you can do that on YouTube, but if you feel like you want to pop in on camera, you can do that with the link down below in the description for my YouTube channel. And if you're feeling bashful but you still want to talk, you can do that too. Just keep your camera turned off. So we want to hear from you. So you can say a lot in the chat, but say by hearing your vocal inflections, we might misconstrue what you say in the chat. But before we start, we do have a special guest this evening. Before we start, I do have to give a shout out to my streaming partner, Dubby. Say Dubby is an emergency. If I can talk tonight, Dubby is an emerging brand of energy drink created to help with concentration, focus, reaction time, without getting the jitters and crash of some other of the energy drinks out there. There's no maltodextrin, sugar, fillers, or artificial colors or dyes. Their mission is to help empower small and upcoming streamers like us, and working alongside us, assisting us to grow and flourish. They are based in Tyson Strasburg's backyard of San Diego, California. If you go to their website, w.gg, you can use my code TechTrek if my fingers want to work here tonight. Is they just use, oops, that's not the right one. There we go. W.gg. Use the code TechTrek, TEKTREK. You get 10% off any non-bundled products. I mean, standalone products, as long as it's not some of those specially licensed products like from Solo Leveling, Chainsaw Man. Got to pay full price for that. But Energy Dub Sauce, Grandpa's Denture Water, Grandma's Lemonade, which is non-caffeinated, which I have tonight. I see there's just so many different flavors for you to try out there. It's a w.gg. But but instead of talking about an episode tonight or Star Trek movie, we're going to be talking it with the Emperor of the Den DEO on Den Social. He has explored the concept philosophy of post-labor economics, acknowledging that the shifting tide of AI technology is coming fast, and we must prepare to either live with it or against it, because in a post-labor society, you can survive and adapt or just fall into the abyss of the forgotten. His perception of our morally declining society is very much at the reason of the federal bureaucratic expansion, centralized monopoly on money, and strongly hopes that both blockchain and agrist principles will eventually rule the day. See, that is a mouthful. You can definitely tell him talking from a script on that one. But anyways, I want to bring him on before I bring on everybody tonight. But is proud to introduce William, also known as IMWE. How are you doing tonight, sir? Oops, you're still muted. I'm sorry.
No problem.
No, try again.
Hello, everybody. Let's do over. A lot of people just call me I am. or AKA William. Even the wife calls me William on a good day. So, uh, but no, I'm very flattered and honored to be here and to talk about um, technology and how Star Trek is probably predicting our future in many ways, as it already has. So I'm very honored to be here and to talk about uh, post labor economics, which is a half step away from what the economy was in the Star Trek genre, which was post scarcity economics or economy.
Yes.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we'll dive into it a little bit, and I believe I can make some references to how Star Trek and our current economy will eventually kind of merge together. So long as we don't kill ourselves in between that point into the future.
In all honesty, I think that we've got more chance of the latter. I think we've got more chance of killing each other.
Well, especially with the current government here in the United States, it's just.
And I will try to keep it apolitical as possible, and keep it within the dynamics of the show of Star Trek and economic models that were presented by Gene Roddenberry, and what we're challenged with, what we're facing right now with AI and automation, and where that's going to lead to. Because everyone's asking, what's going to happen to me if I lose my job, or what's going to happen to all of us if we lose our job, and who will buy anything if we all lose our job, because we all won't have money. So I got some ideas about just that, which also brings us to the point. Remember, in Gene Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek and the future, there was no real currency. Maybe they did barter, but they didn't have material shortages and energy shortages. There were certain things, dilithium crystals that were of value, but they worked with diplomacy with other, nations, I should say with other worlds. In our case, it's with other nations, right? Trying to prevent war. So we have a tough road to hoe, but it's not impossible. Believe it or not, I'm very black-pilled, but sometimes I can see a light at the end of the tunnel in a post-labor economic world that actually brings us closer to Gene Roddenberry's vision, right?
And like with me, I didn't even know the term post scarcity until that episode of Lower Decks about 2 years ago. It's just like, oh, that's what it's called. Okay.
Now, in response to the comment there about me being an emperor and a real live emperor, in fact, it is true. And I could give you a very brief, quick synopsis of how that came about. In blockchain world, all right, we have what are called DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations. Blockchain world, in blockchain, it's borderless. It's technology that is, in organizations that are formed that are borderless. So they require a decentralized governance model, which are called DAOs. And Din.social is a social media experiment, essentially, that that has a DAO, a governance DAO, and they decided that they needed a leader, and they had elected the need for a leader. Then they elected the title for the leader to be emperor, and then my name was selected, and so I put my name in the hat and said, okay, if elected, I'll serve. And so I was elected emperor of a DAO, which, for our best understanding, means I am the first elected emperor of a decentralized autonomous organization in the world. So I guess maybe they'll put that on my gravestone someday.
Yeah, just don't let Philippa Giorgio hear you say that.
So anyway, that's where the title emperor comes from. So yes, in fact, I am a bona fide elected unanimously to the position of emperor of a DAO. Great. But
very swanky.
Yeah. It hasn't really gone to my head, to be honest with you. At least my wife doesn't think so. She says, "You're a what?" I don't think so.
Gotta love
But yeah,
women.
see, but we already got a few people backstage tonight, so including Zach, who graciously offered you an invitation to come on tonight. So thank you, Zach, for that. So you guys, the two
Yes.
of you have done other podcasts together.
Numerous.
Yes, sir.
Yes. See,
Numerous.
I've tried to watch and listen to some of them, but with my wonky work schedule, just like it's not easy. Let's say, but in a post-scarcity society, no problem.
Yes.
But I need to pay the bills somehow, so I run around
Right.
driving Lyft for all day if I'm not feeling well, like I have the last couple of days. But yeah, so this, honestly, for me, this is all new, absolutely new territory for me. So I am just
Same.
intrigued by your knowledge and wisdom, and I'm a sponge that just wants to absorb all this. So
Well, I'm
yeah, I
certainly
got
not the expert, but I've always gravitated towards futuristic points of view, technology, always an early adapter to technology. I was an early adapter to blockchain, Bitcoin, and all that good stuff. So, and now AI in that direction, but it got me blackpilled, to be honest with you. And also in a former life, for a very small stint, I was a lobbyist at a state capitol for a particular association, and that really jaded me on political solutions and voting, etc. And and in that deep dark areas, when I first heard about post-labor economics, and a picture was then painted of how it could bring about a dramatic change in our lives and our society, but also gave me hope. And even if we do lose our jobs, which we are, it's inevitable to the machine and automation.
Yeah, it would. My job is probably a good reference point because driving for Lyft, that they are pushing out more and more autonomous vehicles. That's just gonna, as a driver, I was like, I know that's not gonna go well because customers are gonna do some stupid, crazy shit, and say there. I should have pulled it up. There was a road that was flooded down in Arizona not too long ago, and the car just right into the water. It's just like a human being would have avoided that. See, but because it's I can do it. The say the GPS. Whenever I have it early on when I was first going to Fort Carson to pick up people on Fort Carson Army base, it's telling me saying, "Oh, take Tank Road." See, I did not know at the time Tank Road is for tanks only. No, was it no POV, no personal operating vehicle. I didn't know what POV stood for, but when I picked up my customer, he's like, "Dude, you're not supposed to be on that road."
Yeah.
See, with me being a writer, POV means point of view.
Yeah, that's what I was.
But
no point of view. What?
But
Yeah,
no,
well,
as I put a comment on a minute ago, I have a very love-hate relationship with technology. I hate it, but I have to whisper sweet nothings to it so it keeps working. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't hate all of it. I mean, I love this kind of technology, communication technology. I absolutely love. And I believe that it should be free to everyone. Because for some people, communication like this, or a simple text message, or a phone call, can be a lifeline. But things like AI in vehicles and self-drive cars, and all that jazz, I don't like. I don't trust it. I mean, I barely trust humans, in all honesty. But I think that in some ways, technology is advancing too quickly for the stage of development we are at.
Mentally, so yeah, and socially, in certain aspects, absolutely, you're right. I think that, and there's many of us that just won't accept the change. And there's a famous quote, something to the effect, and forgive me, I'm horrible with names um, and even titles, but the quote is something to the point of, we won't move to change until the pain point is greater than changing. Um, so once we feel enough pain, then we will change. And that's essentially a forced move, right? But it still becomes a choice at some level when that pain point is less, to divert ourselves in a different direction. And like it or not, AI coupled with automation, meaning when I say automation, I'm meaning robotics and this type of thing, and those meshing and coming together as one. When we as humans are up against something that is going to be faster, cheaper, better, and safer. And I can't emphasize that enough. Cheaper, better, safer, faster, whichever order you want to put it. But that's what's going to happen. And that has been the case for hundreds of years. We've always looked to something that was cheaper and faster and even safer. The cotton gin, all the way to moving on a railroad, because that became safer for a while. At first, it certainly wasn't, but later it was, and it became more efficient and faster. And next thing you know, we didn't have to take a ship all the way from the east coast of the United States and down around through the South Pacific and up to San Francisco in the gold rush. We could actually jump on a train and transverse the continent that way. So technology will lead us to new places and newer heights, but there's going to be pain along the way. And in this case, we've always bartered for something. We've always used something as a means of exchange. I can, give you a blanket if you'll provide me, a few goats and some eggs to feed my family, or something like that. So there was barter, which was money, and that created an economy and a means of exchange, and an economy that could be measured. Well, now our current situation is we are in a scarcity economy, if you will. And as a scarcity economy means that, there are limitations to resources. There's limitations as there's expense to energy and these types of things. And so we live in a scarcity economy. And what we need to do is we have to trade our labor and our time for wages. And our trading that labor and time for wages is so that we can survive, right? We can pay for the roof over our heads and food to eat and provide for our family. And if we're lucky, have a vacation and extra money to spend and these types of things. So we are giving up something, our labor and time, for wages. In a post-labor economy, which is the half step between us now and the Star Trek that we dream of, and that economy is what's called a post-labor economy, where we no longer have to trade our labor and our time for wages. We're going to get to what, because the next question is, well, what's it going to be? How are we going to survive? What are we going to get? Let me get to that in just a second. So as the machine and as the AI become more and more capable from all manners of life in all facets, from mowing the lawn to driving a car, driving a semi truck, whatever the case might be, or even the small tactile things like picking up a pin and putting it in a box, whatever it might be, or surgery. What's going to happen is it will become faster, cheaper, better, and safer. And then if we're going to always compete with a machine and AI, eventually we're going to lose out, but not all of us immediately. And there will be options. We will say, maybe the young person's like, yeah, sure, I'll take that robot haircut and have those blades on my head. I don't mind. I trust it. Where an older person might say, well, I'm not going to do that. Besides, I want the physical interaction with my barber or, the beautician. Or you go to a bar and you want a physical person that you can talk to at the bar to pour your drink versus the robot who's going to pour it and maybe have a conversation with you with AI. And you might want that human to human interaction, but it'll have a higher cost and versus the non-cost. And so the first things that are going to go is obviously the keyboard, the video mouse keyboard, the KVMs. Those are the first jobs to go. The bankers, the lawyers, the stock pickers, the brokers, they're the first to go.
The lawyers, that's interesting.
Absolutely.
Have AI represent you, that can be, I don't know what to think.
One thing that always bothers me, like, with technology and the economy, is something simple like a television. I know some people who have got televisions black and white from 60 years ago. They still work to this day, and they work pristinely. Yes, they're still black and white, and they only have like 3 channels, but that they still work pristinely. And yet the new TVs, all right, yeah, there's a lot more technology in them now, but things now seem to last less, like that their lifespan is a hell of a lot less for extreme amounts of money. And that is the issue that I have. Well, one of the issues I have with technology in the economy. And it's, I mean, I don't do politics. I don't. But I do life. And to this day, the majority of the world, and especially all of these like tech moguls that are inventing these things and producing them, it's almost like, I feel anyway, like we're being conned. Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like all of this technology that's in like the TV that I'm looking at now, it's got a shut-off point. It's got an end of life date, and it's almost like it's programmed in there. And it seems like all of these companies and a lot of people it's still very elitist. Only if you have more than this amount of money or earn over this much can you afford to have this. And then those that are earning less are missing out. And this is one of the reasons why I have issues with how fast technology is moving in regards to people and the economy, because it's like a knock-on effect. There's all this brilliant technology out there, but because there are still so many people that aren't earning enough to be able to purchase this technology or experience this technology, they're falling behind because it's not economically sound for them to do this. And it really does feel like it's this elitist society is cheating certain people out of potential and moving forward. And it's like these people, like the poorer people, shall we say, are basically being cheated out of moving towards the future, so to speak.
Well, you said a lot there, and you really nailed it too, because that is the fear, the angst that even I have, even though I'm the fortunate one now to be retired and live a different lifestyle now. But I will say this. I feel still the pain because I still see, my children, and I think of my granddaughter and the life that is she going to, she's just turning 3 this month. And what future world will she see when she becomes a young adult? And will the future be bright for her, or will she be just like many of us that still struggle to pay the light bill, to pay the roof over their head, and wonder if they have enough money for medicine? And I certainly see that, and I feel it, and that's growing because there are all kinds of reasons for it. The economic pressures of the day of inflation, and we're not going to go down the political route or reasons for that. Just that it more helps to identify that we are living in a scarcity world. There are scarce resources. Energy is, shall we say, is expensive, but it's not what it shall we say used to be. We didn't have those energy opportunities. We didn't have those things. And you nailed it, like the television, the black and white television. Some people are fine with that, and it still works. It's like that. There was a comment here: planned obsolescence. Yes, it is planned. Is it planned by the technocrats that want to take over, our parliaments and our, legislatures and what have you? And what will they bring? Will they bring more tyranny, or will they bring us, afford us more freedoms? Is it for them to decide if we're free or not? I don't think so. But again, I'm going to try to keep it non-political right now. So we have a lot of still open questions, and maybe, there is truth in that. It used to be that you could buy an older car and it took less money to maintain and to repair it and keep it on the road, and it could still get you from point A to point B. And today there are so many circuit boards and so many electronics, and a higher failure rate, and more points of failure along the way in everything you do with that vehicle, that car. But then again, that technology has prevented accidents such as, radar and lane departure systems, rear cameras, and it automatically will brake if you have maybe the cruise control on, and maintain a safe distance with your car in front of you. Well, that's just one example in the automobile industry, but that expands elsewhere. Now let's take a look at the radiologist and a doctor who might see, radiation, scans of people's tumors or whatever. And when that technology is at the point where it's now duplicated and, shall we say, digitized and sent to an AI robot or that is now looking at the scans. See, the AI has now seen millions and millions of scans, far more than one doctor could. So it will see all the different variables and it will learn. It will not learn immediately. And just like the vehicle, the self-driving vehicle, it sees a deer and they reprogram what a deer looks like and how the car should, stop or swerve or whatever. But once the car or the AI learns that, then all the cars have learned that same information. In the AI, with the doctor reading that unique scan, that's only one doctor. Another doctor who's just graduated has not seen that unique tumor, maybe. And so it's going to be years before they see that. So there's going to be better, cheaper, safer, faster diagnoses from, an AI radiologist than, say, a doctor. It's just inevitable. And it's actually that way right now as we speak. But the real question is, what do we do if we all lose our jobs, and who's going to lose our jobs sooner? And how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to pay, the roof over my head? Where's the money going to come from? I don't trust government. And now you're going to ask me to start accepting UBI, universal basic income, from the government. And what if I've said bad things about my government? And now my government wants to dock my UBI paycheck. There's all kinds of many questions that obviously we all don't have answers for. However, there are other alternatives that people are really talking about, and I'm very grateful that I'm here to talk to a different audience about this very problem. There is, and forgive me, I don't remember the term, but if all of us don't have money, then there's nobody that has money to buy any new products, and so new products won't be manufactured or put on the market and sold. And so that's what people think about when they think of if AI and automation takes over all of our jobs. Now, some jobs are more going to be devastated faster. Anyone who's doing analyzation work, looking at reports or printing reports and looking at those reports and making a decision off of a report. Well, AI is going to be able to do that faster and cheaper and better and safer than a real human will be. So those jobs are the first to go. KVM, keyboard, video, mouse, is the first to go. So what do we do when the majority of us lose our income? And there are things already. There are wealth funds, like, for example, the state of Alaska. The state of Alaska has a lot of oil, and the people, the citizens of Alaska, do not pay a state income tax. Instead, they receive a dividend check every year based off of how much oil was pumped from Alaska and sold onto the market, and based also on the price of oil. So one dividend check might be more than 1 year versus the previous year, or vice versa. But we have to think there are other things that we could put in this pot. Maybe I live in Texas, but let's just say I lived in Florida and I lived close to Disney World. And that was where my county, my city, Orlando, and that kind of thing. And all the tourists that come to Disney World, well, maybe there would be like the Alaskan Oil Fund or Wealth Fund that could be shared to the residents of Florida, or the residents even more to those in the county, and even those in a higher dividend check for those that actually live in the same city that, Orlando, Florida. And so that's just one example of a dividend check. And so there will be, rather than UBI, I believe UBI will be just a safety net. Maybe the bare necessities, the bare bottom, as being a human. You receive a certain amount of money via UBI because you are human. But see, that's just a transfer. It's a transfer of either a tax on corporations that are producing, AI, automated robots, and AI, and these kinds of things are replacing jobs. It's just a transfer from those companies to the government to us. And so there's a third party, and there's all kinds of laws, and who knows what's going to happen with that, right? So I don't want to trust personally, and I wouldn't want for my children, grandchildren, or friends, neighbors, family, whatever, you folks, to rely just on UBI. So what's got to happen is we have to start talking about this like we are tonight, and say, no, there is a future. There is a potential future that is brighter and greener pastures, like Gene Roddenberry obviously portrayed in many of his shows. We're going to get there. So the post-labor economic model means that we're going to start relying on more dividends rather than trading our labor and our time for wages. We're going to have options, like blockchain has a lot of potential and solutions in shared ownership around the world. And because I'm not going to dig into blockchain, but blockchain basically reserves a token, shall we say, or ownership by, let's say, a serial number, like I have a social security number or whatever. And so if there's a house in my neighborhood that is for sale, maybe I might gather 10,000 people to all put in a few dollars to buy this house and tokenize it, like on a blockchain, so nobody can take that away from you, that ownership, that piece of that house. And now the house is rented out, maybe to tourists that come to my city to visit a park or whatever, or in that case of Orlando. And so all of us that have a tokenized asset of that home would receive a dividend check, in addition to our maybe, our Disney World Fund, in addition to the tourism fund for Florida, in addition to, whatever other funds or things that are unique to your place that you live. And so we will receive numerous dividend payments is possible. So the trick today is just like if you owned gold or silver and it goes up in value, and you take a little bit of silver and you use that silver to buy something else, and that you use that silver maybe to buy a dozen eggs or something like that. You're cashing out part of your asset, or you're going to put a loan against part of that asset maybe, and you're living off of the loan. By the way, that's what the wealthy do. They take their assets, they take a loan out of it, they live off of that loan, the asset appreciates, then they pay off the loan, and voila, they live a tax-free life. Well, that's exactly what they have, that blueprint for us. We can replicate that. We can push that onto our local legislation and cities and states and government to start talking about different assets that we can have shared ownership. Like the AI robot that's going to mow my lawn and my neighbor's lawn. Maybe as the neighbors, we all buy into this same robot and rent it out when we're not using it and get a little bit of income. So our income, rather than trading time and energy and our labor for wages, we will transition to a property ownership. All right. And that is where we're talking about moving from a scarcity economy to a post-labor economy. And that's where there's more abundance, because the AI and the robots are going to be able to do so many things for us far cheaper than humans. And that's why they're going to replace us. They're going to be cheaper than us humans. So the next level after the post-labor economic model is what Gene Roddenberry's, vision of our future is, which is a post-scarcity economy, meaning materials and items like whatever, lithium or something. You're mining asteroids. Maybe you have solar arrays in space that are taking the energy from the sun to generate energy. So your data centers are no longer on the Earth, they're up in orbit. And the data is being beamed down via laser back down to us for our use. So we don't need to tear up our land and consume our water for our data centers. They're already talking about this. The cooling is up there in space. And the solar, there's no atmosphere to block the sun. So their solar panels are much, much more efficient in space. And in the Star Trek area, we start gradually, as we're post-labor economics, we start moving away from the need for currency and money as a means of exchange. And you have to think of a post-labor economy as if you were retired. And that's how I want you to think of it, as you were retired. You don't have to go to work anymore, but you instead have micro ownership of numerous assets. And your city government, your county government, your state, your province, your nation, whatever, you can have assets that you share in whatever, whatever, where other vacation locations or whatever. And you'd have numerous dividend payments in addition to UBI. So that there is a future. It's not guaranteed, and it's not going to be easy road to hoe, but it is possible. And it does give me hope. And believe me, I'm a black pill person when it comes to other things such as government and trust, just because I was a lobbyist at one time and I've seen the ugliness from the inside and the deals that are made in the hallways where there are no cameras, no phones, and no meetings that are recorded. So it is possible. I've had the mic for a very long time, and I apologize. I just wanted to spew it out there and let you know.
Don't apologize. I do find it all very fascinating, and I really do hope that one day we do achieve the level that Gene Roddenberry portrays in Star Trek, because that for me is a society that is proper. You know, it. You know, like I put earlier, a quote from Jean-Luc Picard: "We work to better ourselves." You know, and the fact that someone could, with the being no actual money and things like that, you know, people contribute what they can to society, whether it be a painting to put in a museum, or a book that they write, or a hollow novel, even, you know, it just anything they can. They can join Starfleet, they can become an engineer, they can do what they want, and they contribute, and they work because it's worth it. And it, even though there's no actual physical cash at the end of the day, that they're working towards something much better. And it's a beautiful concept, and that is one of the things that I do love about Star Trek, is that they really do work and do what they enjoy. I mean, you know, like you have Miles O'Brien. He's one of the best engineers in the fleet. You know, in like he is one of the best engineers of his time, and he loves his job, even though it pisses him off sometimes. You know, you know, you don't get any transporter accidents when O'Brien's in the transporter room. You know, and it is so lovely that someone can do something that they enjoy and work to enjoy it, and enjoy themselves at work, and they will still want for nothing,
right?
Even though they don't have the actual paycheck. All right, yeah, that there is, like, you know, on a starship, you know, you get time in the holodeck, and you know, you do get your own downtime, and there's like rotary systems for the holodeck and other entertainment and things, but that's a perk, that is a reward. And yeah, to some degree it is like a reward system, but it's so much more worth it, and nobody is in poverty, and nobody, all right, yeah, there are still some illnesses in the Star Trek world, you know, but a lot has been cured because they've stopped being greedy, basically. And they're just like, well, you know, the aliens have finally come down. We know we're not alone in the universe. We really need to grow the fuck up, you know?
Right.
Basically.
That's the first episode of Strange New Worlds. Is Pike is saying, you know what, this is not ideal, but this is where my planet was at, and then just kind of show them, say, you're going on the same path if you don't like change.
Exactly.
And it's the mindset. I don't think it's individual people per se that need to change their mindset. I think it's the human race as a collective need to change their mindset, because at the moment, I mean, you probably won't know this, but I bitch about humanity all the time.
Me too. I'd rather not be around them.
Yes, exactly. I mean, present company accepted, of course, but I hate humans. But you know, the way like, all right, you've got the individual, you know, that will want to better themselves, want to help better humanity, but as a collective whole, humanity is in such a state right now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to envision Gene Roddenberry's dream with the state humanity is at now. And it's just like children. The human race is almost like toddlers at the moment, you know, and like getting to a point of like Gene Roddenberry's vision. It's like going into it, like achieving adulthood and feeling that pride, and and wanting to keep that up and, you know, adult the way adults do. Whereas at the minute, the human race is like a toddler throwing a tantrum.
You picked a word there and used it beautifully, and it's that greed, that word greed. And that's a human frailty, because we have a greed for money and we have a greed for power. And as we assume power and move up the ladder, that greed kind of gets amplified, unfortunately. And then, you know, unethical choices are made, and for all the wrong reasons. And that is our frailty as humans, right?
Yeah.
But your podcast here is valuable in more ways than you think, because Gene Roddenberry has been successful in having millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people view a future, and in various formats, and has touched lives in countless languages, and has presented a future that is, you know, possible. And if we just plug in, you know, people will say, oh, economics is so boring, I don't want to hear anything about economics. Forget about if you want to call it economics, but just think of it as a different way of living, or a lifestyle that you're living. And Gene Roddenberry presented an alternative for us, an idea, a thought, a seed that we could live without having to use currency, money, and exchange. We would have the freedom to either develop our passions and our talents or not, and spend more time in the holodeck. Or, you know, just like, you know, some people might be comfortable with just the UBI and the bare basics, and others might want to spend their, like I said, think of it in terms of retirement. But it's not going to be easy, that transition. And unfortunately, we are living in that transition. And also, fortunately, we are living in that transition. And you folks here, having seen a future that's portrayed as a plausible future, a future that has provided, you know, a prediction of, you know, the flip phone, the bed that can analyze a patient, you know, in a hospital, and numerous other, you know, things. The replicator is essentially our 3D printer, right? And the replicator is going to go beyond that. And the idea of warp space and warp time and warp drive, you know, was another prediction. And if we start thinking about changing the Earth back into, for the lack of a better term, a Garden of Eden, where our future is we are mining asteroids and our energy is being provided to us from the sun. And that's another thing. AI, and who knows, they probably have already solved it, and we won't go down that route. But the energy, not that it's free energy, it's just being able to, the entropy is cheaper and faster and safer. And, you know, AI intelligence, you have to think of it, and I like to always talk about IQ. We understand kind of what IQ is. And a person that has a higher IQ than us, we're a lot of times at all, or we can't relate to them. We don't understand what they're saying. But we also know that they've contributed a lot to society. You know, famous one is, of course, Einstein and other, you know, physicists. But
Stephen Hawking.
Yes, absolutely. And
Epstein client.
Yes. And then their contributions with those IQs is exactly what AI is. You just have to think of that. But think of AI now, not at, say, 180, 190, or 250, but put that IQ now level at 900 or 1,000 or 1,200, and having the access to all of humanity's digital information. And what will that bring us? What if math is solved, as physics is solved? That's what we're talking about here. Think about it. If there are no more unsolvable math equations or unsolvable physics questions, we won't understand maybe their answer. But that means maybe free energy, shall we say, in our limited understanding, is what it would bring. That's Star Trek.
Katie's about
It
to
is.
jump out of your
However,
skin.
yeah, however, I'm a very big believer. I mean, to some degree, I believe in IQ. Sometimes I don't. Purely because of my IQ test, I don't believe it.
I was
But,
using it as a metaphor, if anything else.
but you know, and you know, this has caused me a lot of problems in my life. I don't have any qualifications. Well, that matter anyway. And yet I've done a lot of studying over the years. I've just not been able to pursue to go and get my degrees because of my health. But do you know the saying, like, jack of all trades, master of none? Well, that's kind of like me at the, like, sort of, but I sometimes struggle having conversations with people about things because I've been told that I take it too far. And I'm just like, what do you mean? And they said, well, there is such a thing as being too intelligent. And I'm just like, whoa, hold on a minute. If you actually really knew me, you would know that I'm not intelligent at all. I'm ditzy as hell. And they're just like, no, like some of the things that you say and the words that you use, I've never even heard that word before. And I'm like, really? You know, I've been saying it since I was like 10 years old. And they're just like, no. And I've been accused of making people feel inferior and like as though I'm trying to be better than them, which is, I will set the record straight, that is not the case. And I've just said, well, I talk how I talk and I know what I know. You know, there are so many people out there that know a hell of a lot more than me about the stuff I know. You know, and there's so many people out there that know things that I don't. Like you know so much about economy, and I don't. I just bitch about it, and I ask questions about it, and I hold my hands up to that. And you know, Travis down there, I call him Rain Man because what he doesn't know about Star Trek. I mean, I think if we had the time, he could probably recite all the rules of acquisition off the top of his head like that. You know, and names of episodes and things like that. You know, it's all there, and you know, and like when there's been talks on like quantum physics and things like that, I'm just like, you know, physics, it's like math, it's evil incarnate, you know, get away. But because of how much I've been around it, I've picked up a few things over the years, so I can keep up with those conversations now. I still don't understand all of it, you know, but I can keep up with certain conversations. But if I try talking about it to one of my friends, they'd just be like, that's way above my head. And yet, you know, that I've been told so many times there is such a thing as being too intelligent. And they always bring it back to Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. You know, he has got, yeah, you know, he has got such a big IQ. And yet he has got no social skills. You know, he is so awkward. They've even mentioned that he's a bloody robot, you know.
Sounds like libertarians.
Well, yeah,
no social skills.
But you know, and the way that he talks to people, you know, he's just, it's all intelligence and no person. And that's one thing that I'm worried about when it comes to like AI and things. I mean, I'm a human being. I don't consider myself as hugely intelligent. I know what I know. I don't know what I don't know. Yet I've been accused of being too intelligent by people. And when it comes to AI, you know, all right, fair enough. They may, like on the scale of IQ, they may have an IQ of 1,000, and Stephen Hawking may have only had an IQ of 185. But on that scale, I would rather trust Stephen Hawking than the AI, because he has social skills, or should I say had, bless him, social skills, and he was aware of how to speak to people, how to explain things to those who were wanting to learn. He was a teacher, you know, he had that human quality where he knew how to explain things to people who wanted to learn or who had no idea. Whereas AI, there's only so much that can be programmed in there, and you still don't have that human touch with AI. So how would that balance? If you're saying that, you know, AI is gonna like take over, and you know, to some degree we're gonna become like
you're
sort of thing.
Yeah, you're speaking about AI safety and AI automation safety. Are the robots going to take over, and is it going to be Terminator and we're Terminated?
No. I'm not talking about
the
that.
AI, or is it the AI interaction? Is it going to be like us looking down at the ants and the ants trying to communicate with us? It's more along that line. So then it becomes is AI in whatever is it going to develop consciousness? I don't think so. There's those that argue maybe it will, but will AI develop to a point where it will be difficult for it to communicate to humans, and we will, or will it stretch our understanding and we will grow because the AI will be our teacher? You know, that's another profession that's in trouble. But just the human interaction, as far as, you know, being polite and this kind of thing, AI is learning that. It is, you know, it has swallowed everything on X or Twitter and Reddit and Facebook and all of the other social media posts, and it's still learning, and it's still getting a lot of things wrong, and it's still hallucinating, which we call it's called hallucinations. When it gets something wrong and it makes up a legal case that never existed or whatever, and an answer.
What about emotion?
Emotions, it just won't have, but it will fake it. It'll fake it till it makes it. No, and it does. You know, and it's going to get to a point where it's going to be more and more difficult to determine: is this AI or is this human? Is this phone call AI or is this human? Is this video AI or is it human? Is this photo or image, is it AI or is it human? And we're already starting to see that. Is this a real actor in the movie, or did Hollywood just create this actor and it's really an AI? You know, we are going to be tricked that way. And believe me, it's going to be cheaper to pay an AI and to develop an AI actor than it will be a real human actor. It's just but I'm really anxious. Zach, I know you and I've had kind of these conversations before, but I would like to hear, Dave and Chris and Travis, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, Chris has actually had his hand up. So hey, Chris, it's like glad to have you back on the show. It's been forever.
Hey, darling. Unmute yourself, my sweet.
Okay, there we go. What's up?
What's up?
Yeah, this whole AI thing, dude. I am with you. Sorry, my name's Chris, by the way. I'm just a good old country boy. I live here in Tennessee. Blah blah. Give you a little bit of my back history. I've got 10 acres. I know how to. I've got a shotgun, a 4-wheel drive, and I know how to fish. I'm 5 miles from the Cumberland River, so I'm pretty sure, we're going to get along here in my little community. It's called LaGuardo. It's halfway between Lebanon and Gallatin, Tennessee. It's just off Highway 109. You can Google it. I can go down here and have the oil in one of my old farm truck. It's an 89 Chevy, and he'll change my oil for a 12-pack of beer and a sandwich.
Yes.
We all have guns out here, blah blah blah. But where was I going with this? Oh, we were talking about AI. Yeah. As far as hospitals and shit like that goes, yeah, definitely. That's awesome. That would, AI taking over. Doing 12 million calculations to a doctor's 2 You know, I am totally on board with that. The problem is, we're using AI in the military, and we're using it with robots, and that cannot get good. You
Real
know,
fast.
real fast, real fucking fast. I mean, we're talking facial recognition. We're talking everything. I know people. I grew up on an Air Force base. Okay, you know, I'm 52, so you know, do the math. The shit that they had back then was kick ass. The shit that they have now, you don't even want to fuck with. And my problem with AI is my problem with AI is in the event that you know maybe it's not you know cyberdyne or whatever. It's not just gonna become self-aware and shit. But the people that are controlling the AI, that you know, we could have 12 people on the entire planet controlling all of the AI and just literally wipe out everything except for them.
100% accurate.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just bouncing that off you. What do you think? Give me some thoughts, Nick. Give me some good news.
I think it's it's centralization, right? Think of the Communist Party in China. How many of them really control most of the levers? And the people really don't care as long as they, can make a living.
As long as they've got food and the roof over their head. That's all they care about.
Exactly. And so, the Communist Party, once you get to at the top level, and they're the ones really controlling it, that's essentially what you're describing, but you're describing for the whole planet. And there's all kinds of, the Illuminati and the Masons, or the, these secretive groups, or the 300, Bilderbergs. There's all these. Yes. And they interact with each other. They play golf at the same place. They go to the same restaurants, and some of them are opposed to each other. Some aren't. Some behind the scenes are working against each other, and behind the scenes are working in tandem. And we think that there are, right versus left, and really it's no left or right. It's the same bird. So, but that's the same around the globe. And Silicon Valley is looking at replacing, Washington, D.C., and it would be becoming a technocratic form of government. Some people have even said, I want to vote for an AI for my congressperson, or I want to vote for AI to be my president. And who knows, we might see that sometime in the future. I don't know, but it is scary, because who is controlling the AI? And at what point does the AI take over control from those greedy SOBs who are trying to control us and keep us down? And what's it going to do to everybody? Are there safeguards being included in this? Do we really, like Musk says, maybe a 10 to 20% chance of those humans being gone? Yes, Chris.
I don't know if you're familiar. I'm a video gamer, obviously, and I don't know if you're familiar with the video game or the television series Fallout.
Yes.
It takes place 200 years after a thermoglobal nuclear war.
Yes.
The currency is bottle caps, like this one. Tech. I have a ton.
Oh, what's this?
I've got a ton of, check this out. It's a Nuka-Cola.
A Nuka-Cola.
I've got like cases of this shit. And I'm going to display it in my house. Well, in my game room, once we get a house built. I live in a little travel trailer. Our house burned. Anyway. AI. What were we talking about? What were you saying?
AI, the people in control of AI.
Yes. Okay, that brings me back to Fallout. If you play New Vegas, or if you're familiar, you're probably not. You don't seem like a gamer to me. But
I used to play Call of Duty a lot. So
God, that's
I know.
Jesus Christ.
And
Civilization. I love Civilization.
That was a good game. That was a really good game. Sid Meier's.
No, that's an amazing game.
Sid Meier's.
And in Fallout New Vegas, there's during the main quest, or I think it was whatever. It was during the main quest in one of the Fallout series. You had to go meet the president, and you found out that the president
Fallout
was
3.
this giant fucking 3-story tall computer, and
Yeah.
it
President
was
Eden.
AI. It was AI, and it could talk to you.
Yeah.
And
President Eden. Yeah, Fallout 3.
yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
What do you think, Travis?
Maybe. With the way Trump is going, we're going to take over Greenland. Fuck the Dutch. It's like, what the hell?
We're an empire. We're an empire now. We're making an empire move.
There we go, and we're going to fall just like the Romans.
Yeah. What do you think, Travis?
Hello. Welcome to our show and all everything else.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm gonna try to make this brief and simple and stuff and all I can and everything because I heard you, and there was a lot to digest of everything that you said and stuff and everything else. In Star Trek, because I want to kind of keep it in the realm of Star Trek because there's not been a lot of Star Trek talk and everything else. So in Star Trek, they came across a species called the Ferengis. The Ferengis were by all the worst form of capitalism, as they as basically they said the worst form of capitalism and stuff and everything else. Their society is not built on, in a sense, warlords or political stuff and everything. It's where they're governed by 285 rules of acquisitions, but only in the entire series that I know of, that they only mentioned like 46 rules of acquisition that governs them in a fair and equal manner of trade and stuff and everything else. Given that it's supposed to be a fair balanced trade, but yet some of the as we see, the Ferengis are not to be trustworthy. And it says, they say, to do business with the Ferengi is, you don't never want to, because they would cheat and lie and they would steal and everything else and stuff. And what you was talking about too, Gene Roddenberry created, and from TOS and then TNG. TOS came along in a sense where it started showing a lot of things where the possibility of the technology that you have described and everything else, in a sense of, oh my goodness, this is the possibility of, like, okay, really, somebody lay down on a bio bed. It takes, your medical readings and stuff and everything else. Star Trek Next Generation came along and they had these handheld scanners in their hands. It's basically almost a entire ER in your hand and stuff. They can like give you a diagnosis and stuff in a matter of, seconds or a few minutes and stuff and everything without, having to do what we see in like TV shows and stuff and everything. What we see in Star Trek from, the things where they created, like they call them pads. Well, we call them tablets now. Yeah. Desktop in Star Trek Next Generation, Next Star Trek Next Generation. They had the first thing we seen in the first season and stuff. They had laptops and stuff. Well, not laptop, but they was look like to us they was laptops and stuff. The little things, and I could see where a lot of people fear of what you're saying about the AI and everything else and stuff. I think we're still, as human beings, it's still as a society and everything else, we are trying to still understand the universe around us and stuff. Understand what works, what is not working and stuff and everything else. I'm more optimistic in the sense of I've seen some people in chat say I'm more optimistic about, like, not the doom and gloom stuff and everything, but Star Trek gave us a way of saying we can work hard in a sense to better ourselves, as Katie put it, to the Jean-Luc Picard said in First Contact and everything else. But there's going to be some really big hard, as you put it, some hard choices to make in life and everything else to get to that way of thinking that we can move past the the value system of what we place on things and stuff and everything. Anything you put value on something, it become a commodity and stuff and everything. It's like, how much do you want for this? How you want in Star Trek, there's something that they call the Great Material Continuum. I'm not sure if you ever heard of that and everything else, but it's one of those things where if you're able to ride the rapids of currency or economics and stuff and everything else, avoiding the shoreline, basically you can make a fortune for yourself without crashing into bankruptcy, as the Pharrells would say and stuff and everything. But the technology that Gene Roddenberry, they created in Star Trek, that they show that the possibility that we could possibly get there and stuff is not without strife and stuff. I understand that right now we're still learning. We're still expanding. We contract, we grow. Sometimes we shrink and stuff and everything. Like I said, I have a more optimistic view on place, in the future and stuff and everything. As you say your granddaughter and stuff, people, somewhere down the line, not in this century, but like in the next century to come, and stuff and everything. The little steps that we take and everything else, because we've seen what happened, when was that Edison, when Tesla and Edison came along, electricity was new. My grandfather, my father's father, my grandfather was born in 1908. At that time, electricity was still a new thing. In 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright, December the 17th, came along. They showed that the lighter aircraft and everything else. We seen in the 20th century, little things came along. Philo Farnsworth, he basically designed the television that we see that came about and stuff. The radio and stuff and everything. Those are the little things that that has value to us, in the sense that gave us the way of showing that we could use the technology that came about and everything else without having to be a detrimental to our whole society and stuff and everything. Now the steps and goals, as you was talking about, how we get there. Now that's the thing. It's a challenge and everything, because there are people who are very opportunistic. There are people who want to hoard the technology. There are people who want to say, okay, let's say that because there are inventors and there are people out there who are, in think tanks, or, people who have these creative vision, like Steve Jobs and stuff and everything else. I believe he was a fan of the Star Trek, and before he passed away, he gave us a technology that I never thought I would see. Touchscreen. Star Trek had this touchscreen tablets and stuff and everything else. It's like, wow, it has really revolutionary changed things that I would never thought I'd see and stuff. It takes a little bit of time, in a sense, for us to get past things and stuff. Even in Star Trek, they say after the Third World War, it took humans to understand, after the First Contact 2 situation, the Vulcans basically helped, but most of it was humans have to do it, where they have to learn that, you're not the only species in this galaxy, in this universe and stuff and everything. You got to, start to learn to, take the world around you and adapted it to your benefit. And the one thing too in Star Trek that gave us is the exploring of the unknown, the exploring of the possibility and stuff and everything. That's the fundamental. It's like, yes, money to them in Star Trek was obsolete and stuff, but the build a better and something to go to seek out new life and new civilization, as they say, just to see what others or what other kind of life forms out there in the universe and stuff and everything. So it may be scary in the sense of right now what we're looking at, and as what you explained to, but I think it's a little bit of more growing pains that we're feeling and stuff. A lot of us, we can be jaded, we can be cynical and stuff and everything else. It's a possibility that, some of the stuff that is invented right now, that are creating right now, could be a very beneficial use, as you said, like on asteroids, like, Freeman Dyson. he passed away back in 2020. You know, he
Dyson
postulated,
sphere.
you know, at the Dyson sphere. You know, if nobody ever heard the Dyson sphere, basically, you know, a big hollow, you know, type of thing around a star, and you know, you absorb all the radiant energy of that star and stuff and everything else. Now, I don't see us in anytime soon creating something that we can harness the entire radiant energy of the sun, but we can try to, you know, get there, as you pointed out, of, you know, energy and stuff and everything, because we're still a fossil fuel society. We're not like a, you know, we're not like Star Wars Galactic, you know, type of not gonna say republic, but like a society and stuff and everything else, you know. I mean, we are still learning and expanding and growing and stuff. But I'm sorry, I'm doing too much talking.
Oh no, that's good.
It's all
It's good.
it's all good, Travis. And Katie made the comment a minute ago about that the electric car was held back for decades. I mean, the first electric car was actually constructed back in the 1880s, so over
Yes, it
140
was.
years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, back then it was a battle between electric, gasoline, and steam, and eventually gasoline won. Steam
Yeah.
should have won. I like steam cars, but anyway, Travis, you were mentioning touch screens. I think that the 1987 Buick Riviera actually had a touch screen. I think. I don't know. I've got an '89 Regal in my backyard because, you know, I've got cars in my backyard. So, and that's one of them. It was my daily driver for 10 years. And it doesn't have a touch screen, but I think the Rivi did. I can't remember. I had a chance to buy a 95 Riviera for $1,500. Daily driver, beautiful fucking car. And I am kicking myself in the ass for that. I just passed it up. Yeah, I passed it up. But the last thing I need is an 8th car in my backyard. Just going silly.
You know,
Tennessee, dude. That's how we do it.
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Nope.
I have a brother that would like to move to Tennessee. You know,
What part?
the whole thing. Pardon me.
What part of Tennessee?
He was looking at the eastern part,
Nice.
in the middle of nowhere. You know,
Johnson City, Dandridge, Morristown, Knoxville.
No big cities. I can't remember the name of
Those
it.
aren't big cities, dude.
Yeah. Well, but a much rural location. Just, you know, if
Okay.
SHITF happens, that's where he wants to be. And
North
I
Carolina,
think that's
the mountains.
a good decision. But you know, getting us to a point. Let me make one quick observation and thought. You know, we always talk about our politicians being bribed and extorted for votes, et cetera, et cetera. Well, remember, if an AI was put in that position and the code was open for us to see and read, the AI has no reason to take a bribe or be extorted for a particular vote. You know, a yay or nay
the code
vote.
can get fucked with, dude. Remember
Pardon
that. There's always hackers out there. They can always,
Yeah, they're called NSA agents.
Good with that.
No, they're called guys living in their parents' basement.
Yeah, NSA agents.
Right. when it's if the code is what's called open source for all of us to read.
Exactly, like Linux.
Right. Then you would
Amen.
know if the AI was altered to vote a certain way. And then, of course, all hell would break loose. You would think. But no, all hell doesn't break loose when our politician says they're going to vote in a certain way, but then they get elected and they go, you know, to represent us and vote differently. So that would be the difference of an AI politician versus a human politician who is funded and motivated by greed, extorted, whatever. So that's just kind of an example of a potentiality. Not that I'm saying that, you know, should or go down that route right now, but I'm just pointing to a point in the future where that question is going to be on the forefront of our discussions.
In the event
in
that this
every
world
household,
makes it.
basically. Pardon me?
In the event that this world makes it.
Yes, which is questionable.
So
The other point I was going to say to your to Travis's point about the Ferengi with their big ears and I believe that came right out of the 80s, and the 80s was a unique time in that it was really the rugged individualism, and you got to make it, you got to work hard to make it, and
The Wolf of Wall Street,
the movie Wall Street, greed is good, Gordon Gekko, and this kind of thing. And so that really came out of that match of that idol, that way of thinking, and it inserted into the Ferengi. And Roddenberry, I think, made the Ferengi ugly, and that greed thing ugly, and to elevate that and to depict a future where we would surpass the Ferengi and have better technology and a better lifestyle and a better way of life than the Ferengi because of greed. And again, I can't emphasize enough, your podcast is great because you can see that future that's already happened, the flip phone and all these things, the touch screen, like you said, Travis. You've seen that being presented in the there you go, being presented in a fictional sci-fi show long before it actually became fact and happened. And so who's to say that we can't survive as humanity and have a future that is so well illustrated by the writers of all the different shows. And I, being a big Star Trek fan as well, I like that idea. And it kind of it's not to put pressure on you folks for your podcast, but you do think about the enjoyment you have about talking about Star Trek, but you also have the ability to say, you know what, our future doesn't have to be gloom and doom, or we don't have to get wiped out, or we outnumber them, and we don't have to be controlled by greed. We could have and develop a future that's much like Star Trek's future that
Could
was
be nice.
And so you folks have, I'm going to put it back on your shoulders. You folks have a wonderful podcast and the ability to point and outline a future, not with political, messaging at all. Just that, we have a future, and it's been proven to work. It's possible. And it's maybe a little bit of a white pill moment. What do you think?
One thing,
go ahead.
One thing real quick, that people say that Katie mentioned that she had a love-hate relationship with technology and stuff and everything else. Yeah. I see it like this. Technology cannot be good or evil at the same time. It's just the intent on the user and stuff and everything else, which we are the user. Like, for instance, DARPA. Nobody. I mean, if people would know this, but DARPA was the one that created Katie. DARPA created the internet before the internet was the internet and stuff and everything else. It came out of the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. And you start looking at that, it's like, why would they do that and everything else and stuff? But yet they gave us this beautiful tool where we are right now from all over the world in different parts of the country.
I did research on that last year
and stuff. We are able to use the very technology that came out of a military application and stuff that actually is beneficial for us in just within the last 35 years.
Yep.
I mean, there was
the birth of it. I watched the birth of it. Boy,
exactly.
Yeah, and I lived in California at the time, to be honest with you. So, that's another thing I want to mention here, because I've been often described as evergreen young because I always like to adopt new technology, and because I'm at the last year of the baby boomers, or right around that thing. The last thing I want to say is that the baby boomers don't get it. and they don't get it and say, well, you just gotta pull up your bootstraps and work harder. And no, they don't get it because of the cost of inflation. You know, in America, if you really put the inflation at the real cost, the minimum wage in America would be $130 an hour or more, probably a lot more when you start thinking about it, because even before the baby boomers were, you know, adults, their parents was still a single income family household. And so the baby boomers get it wrong when they point to the younger generation. They're, well, you don't get it. I was able to do that.
The minimum wage in Tennessee is $7.50 an hour.
Yeah, and do the math. If it was 130, you could see that's why they could buy a home, a 3-bedroom home. They could have
dude, if it was $130 an hour, I could get a 1-bedroom, 3-story apartment. Well, on the 3rd floor.
Yeah,
but you could buy the apartment.
You would also
400
be able
square foot. Yeah,
right. You would buy a new car every other year. You would have paid cash for it. All kinds of things. So my point being is, just because I'm a baby boomer doesn't mean that I'm trying to say, well, I lived through that. I didn't mean it by that. I was just trying to illustrate that I've seen the different change, but yet I still revert back to being a person that looks at new technology. And that, I guess, is a way of it keeps me young. And I've tried to adopt that in the companies that I've been involved with. And so that's the same as Star Trek, you know, as, you know, new technology was coming into play. And that you see that when the first warp drive comes into play in the Enterprise, you know, series, right? And all the things that they are confronting is they're really for the first time venturing out and interacting with different aliens. And it's fascinating because that's really what technology is. And to your point, Travis, technology is neutral. It's the person in control and what they're going to do with it. It's just like, is a car a weapon, or is it a tool to get us from point A to point B? Is a gun a weapon of destruction, or is it a tool for protection? You know, it's a different perspective, and I don't mean to bring politics into it, but my point being, it is technology, and the person who wields it determines how it's being used, or the person who controls it determines how it's being used. And I think, again, Star Trek talks about that. You know, they had that power. Look what they could have done to a planet with their phasers from the Enterprise.
Proton torpedoes.
Yeah, you know,
proton torpedoes.
Look what I could do to my neighborhood with the fucking guns I've got.
Right. And so it brings back to the point that, you know,
look what I can do with my telekinesis.
Yeah.
Ouch, Zach, ouch.
I just farted.
Oh my God. Thank God
Oh, Zach.
Zach.
I love you, dude. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. So
you're welcome.
There's a Ferengi rule of acquisition that's, you know, that always stuck with me. It came out of Voyager. It was rule of acquisition 74. Knowledge equals profit.
Ah, yes. Data now is oil. Data is oil. Data is the new oil.
Yeah.
Candy said she had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I all of this about, you know, like technology and economics. There's one thing that I question. There is so much of our planet still unexplored, resources that we haven't discovered.
And
yet Princess Musk is wanting to colonize Mars. And I'm just thinking, okay, speaking economically and also logically, why spend all of that money, use all of those resources to create this fancy ass tin can to take you to another planet that isn't even habitable for us yet?
That we know.
we still have so much of our own globe to explore, to discover, to even maybe discover new raw materials, you know, that we haven't yet even, you know, imagined.
Mariana Trench.
And, you know, all of that money, all of those resources to send a tin can of people up into the cosmos, why not send them the other way and down into the depths of the ocean, you know, and use that money to better our world, to discover more on our world, so that we can harness this world's full potential, but while also protecting it.
Why not do both?
Send drones.
Hold on. Just listen to me. Listen, just go with me on this. You see, if we focused more here first, and learned how to take care of our own planet while still using its resources and work with our planet rather than just stripping it bare, because, you know, in all the depths of the oceans that still haven't been explored, there could be something down there that we haven't discovered yet that could revolutionize the way we, you know, like soar towards the future. So why not focus our attention and our resources here before we consider going up there, and then like, you know, any discoveries that are made here and start actually taking care of the planet, then, you know, start exploring further out, you know, and work together like that, because it may be more plausible to do it like that. It may also be more economically savvy to do it that way as well, because, I mean, you know, for all I care, just send Elon Musk to Mars and leave him there on his own. You know, I don't mind that. But if you're talking about colonization and terraforming and things like that, why can't we use that technology to heal what's broken here so that we're in a better position to explore, you know, and expand? Because what's the point in expanding if you're expanding from something already broken?
I'll answer this real quick, actually. The reason that we're looking outward rather than internally is because we're still thinking on a finite niche. We're still thinking linear for our resources. So we're looking outward to the stars to supply the resources that we are beginning to dwindle. Not necessarily dwindle, but that we are depleting very, very quickly. So we're looking towards Mars. So Mars can happen, though. I mean, you could easily start terraforming it a little quicker. We don't have the capability, but you could start the natural inclination if you really wanted to.
Or Zach,
going back to
the moon, and as William said, harnessing the asteroid, because asteroids in the asteroid are rich with a lot of different elements that we can use here. But
we could,
very true. But it's like I said, there could be stuff on our planet that
there could be,
you know.
But
if I'm sorry, but if there is technology that can soon be invented or has already been invented but is being held back, you know, that is capable of terraforming another planet in order for us to colonize, why can't we adapt? Why can't we adapt that technology to heal what we've broken here and to explore more and nurture what's here so that we're in a better position to nurture elsewhere?
Arrogance, stubbornness,
because we're
pride.
not. Exactly, Dave. And it all comes down to not only the arrogance and the pride, but it comes down to wanting to retain resources that we perceive we don't have on this planet, or we're dwindling it so fast that we're not going to have it, that we're on the fast track to go where we're probably not completely ready to go to yet. So that's the reason why we're looking towards Mars now, which we should look towards Mars as a future endeavor, but we should also be stewarding this planet as well and trying to figure out what have we untapped.
I have a little bit different answer. I think Zach, you mentioned it earlier, but why can't we do both?
Yeah.
But Elon has said oftentimes that we needed to get some part of humanity off this planet in the event there was a catastrophic event to save humanity. That's one. But number two, and this is my bigger point to say, understand or support what he's trying to do in some regard, is it's freedom of choice. It really comes down to individual freedom. If his choice, his freedom is, his self-determination is, he wants to build rocket ships and he wants to take us to, outer space and go further than any of the Apollo missions have gone, and maybe land a colony on Mars. That is his free choice. However, the cost, I think, that you're talking about is our own planetary resources here on Earth, and and its limitations. And there's twofold to that. One is, of course, we have limitations on this planet as far as resources, and maybe we would have a better opportunity or find a better whatever mineral to be able to, or something on the periodic table to a different atom to split or something like that would make transversing space a lot easier. That's possible. And why couldn't we do both? But it really comes down to choice. If I have the choice to invest in his movement, humanity, and trying to do a hedge my bet in the case Earth is blown up from an asteroid, or we self-destruct, self-kill ourselves, at least humanity can live because it's living outside of our planet. And so it really comes down to the freedom point.
I have a question.
Maybe I choose a career path and you choose a different career path. It's really essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, before you ask your question, Chris, I wanted to broach a question that was asked earlier in the chats.
Okay. Yeah. Do that.
If William was familiar with revaluation.
That's a good question.
Is he or she referring to the revaluation of what? From a perspective of revaluating our assets, here, and
I would say so.
Shall we say resetting our currency back to zero, like we've seen other countries do, or add a zero or take away zeros? I don't know in what respect.
Yeah, I should have tried to push it out earlier when they first asked the question, but everyone was just bam, 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 bam. I was like, okay,
Sure,
I'm just going to hold in on that.
No, I get
from hopefully Renate is still here, so if he's here, he can kind of build on that question or pop in and ask it vocally.
I lived in McAllen, Texas at one time, and I used to go back and forth to Mexico 3 or 4 times a week because we had facilities on both sides of the border, and so we dealt with currencies, very different currencies. And before our company really got should say was founded and moved and started exporting goods from the US into Mexico, Mexico had just gone through their peso crisis and the devaluation, and it's basically stripping a zero, and so everything was repriced, if you will. It's kind of like if you closed the store and you changed all the prices in the store by 1 0 or decimal point, and you also changed what everyone was paid by 1 decimal point, so it became uniform throughout the store and uniform throughout all the workers. So there is a potential of a revaluation. Usually that comes about in a crisis when you have a free fall. Your currency isn't inflation, hyperinflation. You see the Zimbabwe dollars with $1 trillion and it's got all the zeros, and people start burning the paper because it's cheaper to burn paper that's worthless to stay warm or to cook with. So,
wipe your ass with it
that way. What was the other question, Dave?
The other question was from Chris.
Oh,
yeah, I can't even remember. What were we talking about?
we're talking about Elon Musk and should we go to
going to Mars. Man, that dude goes to Mars. I hope he goes, because he's going to get scared the fuck out of his goddamn brain when he sees what's up there. There's a station. There's another space station on the moon. Call me crazy. Do what
Crazy,
you want. These guys know. But yeah, we have space stations on Mars and the moon. And you ever seen the TR-3B? That's a pretty fucked up thing. Yeah, we've got 2 of them. So yeah, it's like the SR-71 of 2015.
But
I'm gonna push back on you, Chris. We never went to the moon, and the Earth is flat.
Oh, I have a very valid
it's not
argument
true.
for that.
It's not true. The Earth is the form of a football. It's a football.
I have a very valid argument.
It's a hot dog. Go ahead, Katie.
No, I have a very valid argument for anyone who says the Earth is flat. If the Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off it by now.
Yep.
That is absolutely true.
But also, that's a nice segue onto my question. You were saying about one of the reasons why Elon wants to colonize Mars is to potentially save humanity in case of a catastrophic event. Is he planning on saving flora and fauna from Earth as well, alongside humanity? Because that's just as important as humanity itself.
You'd have to ask him that. I don't know, but I would hope so. There's a lot of things that are going, for us and against us in that realm. Here's a little bit of a black pill. Maybe it would be maybe a white pill for Mother Earth, right? But our population decline is certainly going to become an issue. And I will make an argument, this for a whole nother show, but I'd make an argument that China never had 1 billion people. It was actually a psyop. And so they don't have 1.4 billion people. India passed 1 billion people. I believe their population numbers. But the Western world's population is declining. And look at Japan and South Korea. Their birth rates are dismal.
0.77 for South Korea.
Yeah. And so that society is not going to exist anymore. Unless they do
have a goddamn baby.
Yeah. And a lot of the Western world, is demographically changing. I don't want to get into politics about immigration or anything of that thing, or migration, whatever you want to call it. But let's just say that, blue eyes and red hair is also some point in humanity probably going to become extinct. So it's just, so if there's less people on the world, there may be less people consuming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that maybe our resources have a longer lifespan because there's less of us. That's potential.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
thus Fallout.
Sorry.
Fallout. Yeah.
Yeah. I disagree. I don't want Fallout. I want Far Cry 4 to be exact. I want to run my own militant, zealous.
You can do that in Fallout too, But the thing is, you have nukes.
Yeah, but
you have nukes.
Well, you had nukes in Fallout. I wanted to be in this world. I don't want the nukes yet.
No, God, no.
Yeah,
I actually have one question.
I'll make up an answer.
In your opinion, with the way we're going, like as is now, like the status quo, what is a realistic timeline for you as to when we could achieve Gene Roddenberry's dream?
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to answer in two ways. Sooner than you think, because a post-labor economic model or economy could be forced on us by as early as 2035. And we will know this within 1 or 2 years from now. And we will know this. So that is where so then the next time frame, how fast will we transition from a post labor economic economy to a post scarcity? And post scarcity is again defined as we don't have a hunt and a fight and an ongoing need for more resources. AI has tackled the ability to generate energy in a safe manner, in a safe way. We certainly won't be on the petrodollar. We certainly won't be consuming a lot of other natural resources. And like I said, a lot of resources will move beyond outside of Earth. Energy generation, data centers, and these kinds of things. So we will be able to actually more greenify our own planet, I would think. And I don't know how fast that's going to happen, but the exponential rate of the AI abilities to solve math, physics, and it's measured, annually, monthly, and the things it can do, just what it has accomplished in the last year and a half. If you really look at it, and if you were playing with it a year ago, you would see it. You would see the giant leaps. And let me put it another way, because I don't honestly know your answer, Kat.
No, I was just wondering what you think would be like a realistic time frame, like for a natural progression, nothing forced or anything like that, like a natural progression from where we are now to the dream that Gene Roddenberry envisioned. What do you think is?
Don't forget, Katie, that it took a nuclear war to make that happen in the Star Trek universe.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, good point.
It did.
Very true.
It did.
Good point. Let me put one other quick perspective for you. For $300 a month, you could have the highest level of grok. And at the highest level of grok, it would mean that for $300 a month, it would be like, let's say that I had a large, giant table in my dining room, and every chair had every science, was every chair at my dining room table, and each chair was a high-level PhD, at the highest level at Oxford or Harvard or Stanford, wherever, understanding of that science. So each chair for $300 a month, I can basically have that high-level grok or AI in my living room or my dining room. And corporations are doing that right now. Rather than, and this is another thing, universities are very compartmentalized.
There, Dave.
Universities, the geology department doesn't really interact too much with the, astrophysicists or whatever, where there are connections. Where AI, there is no, they might interact in the break room or at the Christmas dinner or something like that, but they don't interact, frequently, and they're not sharing data or are able to read all of those papers immediately and find those links and connections like AI can. So with corporations, and they're doing it now, are paying top dollar, even far more than what I'm describing, and they're having these AI agents essentially have these sciences talk to one another. So their advancements are going to come quicker and faster than you can even imagine. And so that exponential rate of technology growth it's a phenomenal thing to watch and see.
Let me ask you this question
right there before us.
This question before Phil, because Phil just joined us, and I really want to hear what he had to say. The technology that we have right now, not to say what we have right now, but do you think, in a sense, because in Star Trek we see that like after the Third World War, the Vulcans come, or the Third World War, the Vulcans, made first contact with the humans and stuff. It took almost a century before they say they, got rid of hunger, disease, most diseases, and poverty. I'm not saying that technology is the answer, but like, do you see an outlook in the sense that technology is the answer to help us cleaning up the pollution of our planet, in the sense of like, finding ways to clean up our oceans, to feed people? In Star Trek, replicators, they have replicators in the 24th century. Before that, replicators did not exist. They still, I guess I don't know if they grew their food or whatnot and everything else. They still had a cook on board, some, on starships and stuff. But in the 24th century, they have replicators. So you see stuff like that, like where we see the technology not being it in a sense, but can it do what we hope that Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future is and stuff like that? It would be like an answer to cleaning, filthy sewage and stuff and everything else. Places in Africa, South America, stuff like that and everything. But that's my question. I want to ask.
Yeah, I was going to say real quickly, poverty and hunger is a political problem. It's not a resource problem. It's not a resource of getting those resources to the individuals. It's a political choice. Now, as far as cleanup goes, it's a political choice or an economic choice, as so much as the greed factor is it worth my while to create a company to go clean the oceans or not? And where AI, now we could maybe in a form of abundance, we have AI automation and robotics that would go down there and humans don't have to do it. So it's faster, better, cheaper, safer to do these things. And that is likely and highly probable. But the other is political. And Phil, I don't know. Nice to meet you, Phil.
Hi, pleasure to meet you too. I'm from Canada.
Hey, I love hockey.
Oh,
that's my sport. For what it's worth. Living in Texas, I don't get to see it anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, but we've kind of dance around a little bit and say all this talk makes me think of the Voyager episode Critical Care, where the doctor program got hijacked. He was put on this medical ship that their entire society put their hands into the care of an artificial intelligence, and that AI gave a treatment coefficient, a TC level, saying this person's rated this, so put them on level blue. This person's rated that, put them on level red. And they say it pretty much puts everyone at a number. It doesn't give a rat's patootie on how sick they are. And say
I love that episode.
We talked about it a while back. Yeah, we talked about that episode a while back, which the allocator was voiced by William Daniels, who did Kit and Knight Rider, which that's a totally different AI there.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, see, once I heard it again, it's like, holy crap, that is Kit. That is, when William Daniels played,
porn, so
yeah, when William Daniels played Mr. Feeney in Boy Meets World, this before the internet, I just remember racking my brain, like, I recognize his voice. Who is he? And then he said, I think one episode he said Michael, and I was like, back then he did not want to be credited on the show, so no one really knew who he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, the allocator definitely in a case where
that
AI
was a
can go
good episode.
It was.
That one and The Fall.
So
The Fall was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Yes.
another episode that we talked about in the past.
Nice.
But yeah, the alligator.
Phil joined us late. Phil joined us late. I want to because he's he came in late and everything else, and I'm sure he probably want to speak to William and stuff. Believe it or not, Phil, William said TOS because he saw TOS when he was young.
Mhm.
He enjoyed. We backstage talking about like some of our memorable episodes, his memorable episodes from TOS and everything, how it got and also too, before TNG came along, there was a lot of people who approached some of the actors who told them in a sense that they wanted to be engineers, they wanted to be like
Yep.
want to be doctors, stuff like that. They went into stuff because they were so fascinated about what they seen in Star Trek that they chose a career profession in doing so, because he was like, I want to bring that to real world application and stuff. But Phil, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, I thanks so much, because I do have after this, I'm already really late too. I'm doing a live stream after this myself, so it was strange that I wanted to actually talk about how AI is affecting the art industry. So yeah, Phil Chandler Arts can join me afterwards. Something I want to bring up, because I've talked about this before, and I was surprised maybe nobody else has actually mentioned this, because something that's I've always had a fascination with was the resource-based economy. That I don't know if I imagine you probably heard of that, and Jacques Fresco, who started the Venus Project. That has fascinated me to no end. And I always wondered if I have a feeling, I think Roddenberry based some of the world of Star Trek on that, because it's very much like that. It was a whole idea of removing two big things: removing government and removing money altogether, freeing up the advancements of technology just to do what they needed to. But Fresco always believed, though, that having control over that because if you removed government and you remove greed and you remove that kind of power mindset, we could better control what our technology need to do and have technology work for us rather than us work for it. So, but he had some fantastic ideas of dealing with population, and that if we advance technology that way, that we could live far much richer lives, that we could sustain the populations of the earth, and we could expand cities under oceans and on oceans, and tower cities and everything that would sustain society. And I've always been fascinated by that, but it's a pipe dream. It'll never happen at this point. But I just wonder if your thoughts on that, or
Phil, I think you're spot on. I think that's a lot of what gave Roddenberry those ideas to portray it in the various shows and his writings, and it was wonderful that others took that same baton and expanded it, or kind of touched on that economy in other episodes, in other series. You're absolutely right, and kind of how, and we really, to be honest with you, on the post-labor economics, we just touched on it just a bit, but the idea being that we're not, again, trading our time and our labor for wages. Instead, we're sharing dividends from assets that are generating revenue, and then that's being transferred back to us in the form of a dividend, like the Alaskan Oil Wealth Fund and other wealth funds, and UBI being a safety net, if you will. So what that does is that frees up more of our time, or gives us the choice of how much we want to labor. And there will be some of us that we enjoy our jobs, and for thousands of years we've defined ourselves as, oh, I'm a bartender, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm a taxi driver. And that's, it's even been in our names, the English names, oftentimes, for some reason I'm drawing a blank, but anyway, that's how we've defined ourselves. And in the world that you're talking about, Phil, or that future that we're talking about, is we won't be defining ourselves that way, but instead maybe we'll be more defining ourselves in our interests, because think of it as a post-labor economic world where think of us as all retired individuals at different ages. We're all now retired, and we choose to put in so many hours. Maybe I enjoy cutting hair as a barber and liking that interaction and that conversation with somebody, and somebody would pay $2 for the robot to do it and trust the robot with blades, with a shell over the head, but then there would be no human interaction. Whereas I would enjoy having that conversation with the barber. And sports is going to be something that maybe am I going to watch the robots fight, or am I going to watch real humans? On the
Apparently, robot fighting draws big crowds, right?
Yes, it does. But there's still that now. But let's look at a concert. The human experience of playing music.
Yeah.
I'd much rather watch that show at a concert and enjoy even the imperfections of a mistake, of a missed beat or a misstrung on a bass guitar or something, and rather than a perfect sound of robots on a stage.
Yeah.
Whereas I might go home and still watch a movie that is completely done by AI, and it's riveting and exciting and dramatic to watch. So I do believe we can get there if we don't destroy ourselves beforehand. But it is true. We have the potential of having an abundance of free time, creativity that's interjected into the society and the systems where new ideas and new things will come about. AI right now is not creative. It might have an IQ eventually of 400 or 500, but still not be creative. We as humans are creative and can introduce new ideas. And with abundance, with not having that fight for energy and that fight for resources, it's very possible that new ideas will flourish. And to go back to the exploration point, that's part of it. We explore in our learning. We explore when we pick up a book to read, to find out what the author is saying or doing, and intrigued by where the storyline is going, just like we watch a movie. That's a part of exploration. Just like, getting on a sail ship and finding the Americas for the first time, that feeling of exploration. We're going to have that ability if we're all retired. Imagine having all that time, that free time. To get us to there, it's going to be difficult because we have a lot of control freaks and greed and control systems and regulations and laws and nation states that fight amongst themselves and want to war with themselves. And the people typically, again, I don't want to get into the politics. Maybe Gene Roddenberry talked about World War III as an example. Don't do this. Fight for peace. It's the rulers, it's the ruling class of the elites that want you to fight, to keep you divided. And we outnumber them, and we can avoid that. And like I said, I can't say it and emphasize it enough. You folks have an ability to, the Star Trek and what he portrayed, how our future could be. And so
divide and conquer.
William, remember this rule of acquisition number 10: greed is eternal.
Maybe for the free, but the free didn't have abundance.
Travis, William, I love you, brother.
Have you seen the show called The Orville?
Orville. Probably. Remind me, fresh me.
That's the parody. It's the parody by Seth MacFarlane.
Season 4 is being shot right
from
now.
Family Guy.
It has 3 seasons. It has 3 seasons. And let me tell you.
No, I have not.
Is it only 3?
Well, I think there are 3 seasons. Yes, where everybody been wanting the 4th season, they just waiting for Disney to greenlight it. But to me, from what I'm just hearing from how from you, William, I think you will really take interest in, because they do a lot of. There's some messages behind certain episodes especially in season 3, but the Orville does have such a, it's kind of comic-y, but there is a really good messaging too. You might want to check the Orville out and check it out, because it's the parody of Star Trek, but it really does have, like, each episode really it delves deep into some stuff that you had talked about too, of this particular, these topics that we've been
and Seth MacFarlane, he's a huge Star Trek fan.
He is a huge Star Trek fan. It's one of his best works, in my opinion, because he's a Star Trek fan. Star Wars too.
It's funny as hell. It really is. The Orville, like Travis said, it's on Disney Plus, and it is funny as hell.
Oh,
goes from like 1 minute being totally.
Why's he got to be on Disney?
Minute it'll like rip your heart out.
Yes. Phil is right. Yes. Phil is right, because especially in season 3, you could see the production budget go up, but the first 2 seasons, you get through those first 2 seasons, they really do have some really good storyline in episodes and stuff. But season 3 really kicks it up, and there's some stuff in there that I believe you would really like, and I would love for you to come back and we talk about some of the stuff that you could probably incorporate it in your messaging and in your talking to, because there are some things out here I'm like, wait, I remember some stuff like that from the Orville. There's some messagings like that from the Orville.
There is a lot of there's a lot of Star Trek messaging in there. Let's say there's a two-part episode in season 3 that rivals Best of Both Worlds in terms of like tension and just
nice.
They have artificial life forms in and they really do a real well. They do really well with touching and stuff and everything about what we're talking about. Artificial.
Let's just
I'm telling
lay
you,
it down right
trust
there.
me. The Orville. If you get a chance, you and your family, sit down and watch it. I'm sure people will your family will enjoy it. But it has such good messaging.
My wife is a fan of Star Trek as well, and we've been talking about going back and starting in episode 1 on Next Gen.
Well, this year is the 60th anniversary of Star Trek, and I'm doing a whole rewatch from TOS all the way to and stuff, because in September will mark its 60th year. So, and I know they're going to be doing some like Paramount and everything. They're going to be doing some big Star Trek thing, and there's most recent shows that came out. Lower Decks, Prodigy, Star Trek Picard season 1 through 3. Then there's Discovery, and then those are the newer Star Trek. But like for us, we go to the old school Star Trek, and to rewatch all this stuff, and for there's a new generation, a younger generation, pardon the pun, a younger generation who's going back watching what we watched, and they are loving it. They're dissecting it and stuff and everything else, and it's really interesting to see a newer generation that's younger than us taking in, absorbing what we watch, and they seeing like the diasporas of what they written back then. That's what's happening now, and it's just like it's like, wow, some stuff has came to pass in Star Trek and everything else. But like I said, the Orville, check it out, and you are not going to be disappointed.
No, you're not.
I too am. I'm doing the original series of the original series for the year. So yeah.
Nice, good.
But
I have one final question.
Okay.
In your opinion, William, how would you advise that people work with AI? Because there's, it's like. Phil, he is an artist, and I'm on a lot of book forums for authors, readers, and illustrators. But Phil is an artist, and I'm hoping to be an author. But that industry is severely being affected by AI.
Yeah.
And illustrators are being put out of work because of AI artwork, and I don't mean to sound selfish here. I really don't. But, you know, I do have very rare selfish moments. And I actually mentioned something on Zach's podcast about this. I've just written my very first book, and it's the first in a series. I'm hoping to get published. I'm hoping to make a career out of being an author. And yet, the only thing that I've used AI-wise is, because it's so much easier and I do not own a physical copy, I've basically used a thesaurus. You know, like other phrases that mean this, and, you know, just to expand the vocabulary a little bit, especially when I can't brain and form words. But there's people out there, and, you know, same with illustrations as well, that use AI to create these artworks and to create these novels, these works of literature. They barely change a thing in it. Now, it's one thing to use like things like ChatGPT and things like that. You know, it's one thing to, do you know when you know exactly what you want to say and it's on the tip of your tongue, but you just can't get the words out and you keep getting fuddled up? It's one thing to use something like ChatGPT to help you discover those words. And then you just like, oh, no, that's not what I meant, but that's just given me an idea. It's one thing to use it like that, but to write an entire book and then barely change a word of it and have it being like 99% AI. Me, myself, and I consider that as cheating and abuse of technology, because there are people out there like myself who spend hours and months and years putting all this effort in, this brain power, human emotion, human everything into our work. And yet there's people out there who are abusing this AI to make money. And it's the same with illustrations as well. Now, okay, fair enough. You've got digital art,
grifters,
but that is still your creation. You are still using that tablet. You are still using your own hand, you know. But just to fully create something by AI, how could we prevent it from being abused and used like that?
When you talk about authenticity, you're talking about the authenticity of you know, just give credit where credit is due.
Well, yeah, because, you know, if I was to create my series of books by AI just by typing certain key phrases and ideas into something like ChatGPT, and it was to write my books, I would be a liar if I took credit for that. Yes, the idea came from me, but I'd be lying if I said that I wrote that series of books. And that would, in my eyes, be an abuse of technology, an abuse of something that is there to guide and help. So how could we prevent that? How could we work with the AI rather than be pitted against it?
I think there's two things. Travis, you nailed it too on the authenticity. Remember the example I gave of the bartender or the barber? People are going to choose, I want human interaction. I want to read something that is human and not AI. And as jobs get replaced and more people become unemployed and struggling, there's going to be a lot of anger that's going to gravitate towards the AI, and they're going to want to rise up, and they're going to go to the streets because of the pain, the suffering of the lack of income, right? And there are going to be those that are going to say, I refuse to read anything that is AI or watch anything that is AI. And that's going to be the sub-market or the subset market. And I that now this is just my personal opinion, you know, but it seems like a logical step. Now, eventually, as we age and the youth come in, they're adopting new technology, and they'll adopt the AI, and they're going to go for the $2 haircut with the AI robot, and not the $15 haircut or $100 haircut, or more like $100, $150 haircut, and have that human interaction. But someone who has experienced the human interaction with their barber and not worried that their hair didn't come out exactly perfect like the AI did, could make it, they're going to want that human interaction. They're going to want that authenticity. They want that human touch, like the concert that you go to. And we're going to see where, it's a multi-billion-dollar business right now, today, and it's expected to grow 2x, 3x in the next few years, is AI detection. And that has to do with, Phil, like in the creative space of image making and video making, and it's often called AI slop, and people are calling it out. This is AI slop, and there are other people that are getting tricked. Oh, that poor grandmother, they just got knocked over by that, little bird or whatever, and it was an AI video, or this image, is it real or is it AI? And if they find out that AI detection models and humans are determining, not AI determining AI, but humans are determining what is AI, what's real, what's human, then there is going to be a marketplace for that, I believe. And there's going to be a marketplace in the detection, and there's going to be a marketplace of, I'm going to subscribe to human authors and not AI authors. Or it's going to go through an AI, and someone's going to say, I just want to read the summary of the book. And AI is going to summarize the book. Intellectual property, that's a whole nother can of worms. And I don't know how Gene Roddenberry handled that in Star Trek. But people will appreciate human creativity, because I still think that AI creativity is just not there. And it's easier to spot, especially in the art world. But eventually it's going to be harder to discern between the two.
There's what it is, the human is tangible. The tangibility of, us, it's tangible. That's, what to me, AI would never replace the tangibility of what we as flesh and blood creatures can do for one another and create art, music, just things that, are painting, beauty, like Leonardo da Vinci. He was
an alien. He couldn't have been real. He was amazing.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead. Somebody was speaking.
Yes, I think Phil was.
Oh, just really briefly, I was going to mention I don't know fully how AI works. I've always said that AI is actually not really true AI just yet. I don't think it's there yet. But when people when we're seeing AI created art, and there are artists coming forward and saying, I'm seeing a piece of my work in that. I'm seeing my signature at the bottom of that piece. Something's not right. I don't know if this thing is lifting pieces off the internet or what, but it's not making anything original yet.
No.
So
yeah, you're absolutely right. But let me argue this. Now we're talking about intellectual property or IP. Let me argue a different perspective on IP. We have all learned something, and it's being stacked. And and we all have a fingerprint or a signature in our writing, in our linguistics, in our vocabulary, in our handling of a paintbrush or whatever. And that's the signature, I think, that you're talking about, Phil. Some are arguing that there is no intellectual property, and intellectual property was a way to prevent theft, to validate authenticity, to give something of more value because it's authentic versus a replica. And then
I used to be one of those people.
Yeah, and it takes it to the next level and says, now I'm going to blow your mind. What if there is no IP? What if there is no intellectual property? Because everything that you learned and you did is a subset of everything else that you've learned from and just added to it or tweaked it or changed it and added your fingerprint on top of another fingerprint. I'm not saying that that's what it is or that's what AI is or anything, but I can tell you that there is a huge, this is another place where AI is going to have a stumbling block in the IP world. There are authors right now that are suing because their AI is being, I can pull up their book, but they never received any royalty. How did the AI get that copy of that book for me to read or summarize? And the author didn't get credit for it. And so as the revolt rises up, as people lose their jobs and their wages to AI and automation is again robotics linked at the hip with AI. Before we go rising up, they're going to say, I want my due. I want my money. It had my book and I didn't get paid. It used my art and I didn't get paid. And there's going to be a fight.
What you're saying too is something like, patent, like, the patent officer, like somebody creates something. But I mentioned earlier, Philo Farnsworth about, him. He actually, it was proven in a court of law that he created basically what we see as, TV, and stuff and everything else, even though a rival tried to take what he already had, some years before, and they was trying to get it and stuff and everything else. But, the courts found it's like, hey, look, this was created before, but y'all took his patent and stuff, and y'all took his ideas and stuff and everything, used it and tried to pass.
And I think those were within days.
And it's just what you're saying too. It's like, the whole thing, real quick, because I know we got to get going. But
yeah, I was about to say, we're about running out of time tonight.
the intellectual property and patent stuff and everything, going back to the authenticity, is like, when technology get in the way of what someone created, that somebody actually created, they're not getting their just due as, like you said, royalty or acknowledgement.
Yeah. I don't know. Wow.
Well, is there
You are correct, Travis.
Any closing thoughts before we call it good?
I have one closing thought.
Go, Katie.
Don't be a dick. Don't be greedy.
Be greedy. Greedy's good. Greed is good. Just like Gordon Becker said.
I have a question. So y'all hate me now, right?
No. Hate you?
Never.
No.
No, I love you to pieces.
You're more my
Chris. You're my
people.
brother from another mother.
I'm just fucking with y'all. Come on. Hey, come on. I'm just fucking with you.
He brought the quagmire.
Would love to join you. I got to get me something to eat and I got to go to bed. I've been dying. I would love to join you, but oh my goodness, it's late. And I would love to join you on your channel and stuff. I have to rearrange my schedule for something, but oh my goodness, I gotta get up at 6:15. Oh yeah.
I know
anybody check out Phil's channel.
Yeah, there's the quagmire. Hey, come on, diggity. I have a question. Ever been to the Fuzzy Navel? It's a bisexual strip club where every exit's also an entrance. Giggity.
Real quick, my closing thought is thank you, William, for coming on. I hope we have you back as a guest and stuff. It was a pleasure to meet you and to hear your insight and to hear everybody's insight, whoever joined us and stuff. Anybody who wants to join us and stuff, hopefully in the not so far distant future, William can return as a guest and bring others on and stuff and everything else. Zach, thank you for introducing him to us and stuff. And
absolutely,
likewise.
We appreciate everybody who attend and all.
Oh, it's been fun.
You are now officially part of
you're
the
awesome.
Technical Trek family, William.
See, William, I told you they'd like you.
Thank you, Zach. I had a warm invite from Zach and a warm welcoming. So I really appreciate all of you Thank you so much.
You're
Hey,
We
appreciate you
we
for
got
coming on, man.
turbulent times. We have turbulent times ahead of us.
Yes.
But we have a picture of a future that Gene Roddenberry wrote and dreamed of and
Amen.
presented on the screen for us all to, point to, use it as a target, and help
Right
everyone
towards.
march that direction.
Well, what did he call it? A wagon
Absolutely.
train to the stars.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, wagon train to the stars.
So
Thank you so
love
much,
you guys.
everybody. I appreciate it.
you're right.
Come
Anyone
back
that's on,
anytime,
Nice.
darling.
yeah, anyone
And-
that's on
hey,
right
check out
now
Phil.
saying,
Phil,
Yeah, Phil
Phil-
seems awesome.
Feel
I
free
need
to,
to
I'm
talk
going
to
to talk a little bit more about,
in 5 minutes.
so feel
Yes.
free to hop on over.
yeah,
And if you
but-
want to, if you want to hear and see more William, every Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern is World Blockchain Roundtable. So look it up on the Dragon Chain and everywhere else on YouTube and X.
yeah, is it
I
everyone that
will, but
doesn't
I'm
have
not
to,
up at that. Yeah. I'm
and
a night owl, dude.
everyone,
But I will definitely look for that. Just you'll figure it out. Come on.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to talk about this subject with anyone, anywhere, at any time. So
Mhm.
I'm on late night.
it's something that's interesting to me, and so I keep tabs on it and follow it. So
yeah, but
Dude,
feel free to reach out to
you
me.
know a lot more about it than I do. I'll tell you that right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let's say before we all drop off, I do got to give a heads up for next week's episode. It's going to be another big one because we've got the series premiere of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. They're going to be doing two episodes. So
All right.
I think that they are saying that the episodes are entitled "Kids These Days" and "Beta Test."
Hey, that blonde chick's
So-
pretty hot.
I'm confused. Are they all Klingons?
No,
No.
just the guy on the left.
Okay.
You're really
No, but
Oh yeah, no giggity.
yeah, but they do have a Klingon Gem Hadar hybrid, so that's going to be interesting how they explain that. But it's been 700 years. Anyone
that
that's
is
still
weird.
anyone that's online when we close the chat and saying the chat can still go on backstage should you desire to stick around for a few extra minutes. But
Oh, I'll be
Until
around.
the-
Don't worry.
live
until
long and
then,
prosper.
until next week, hailing frequencies are closed. May
Live
Spock
Toodles.
guide
long
you.
and
Yeah, everyone.
prosper, my friends.